OCD can be an extremely debilitating anxiety disorder, but it's not all about cleaning or checking locks. Many people are terrorized by their OCD thoughts or images, and may feel a great deal of shame or embarrassment about it. If that sounds familiar, then this video is for you, as I'm going to talk about some of the worst, most disturbing or unusual OCDs. Of course, which ones are the worst is subjective, but the real purpose of this video is to help you understand what these thoughts or images do or don't mean, and to know that you're not alone in having unusual or disturbing OCD thoughts. Let's start with religious OCD. Sometimes it may be referred to as scrupulosity OCD, because people with religious OCD may scrutinize everything they do and think, and may obsess over whether it was a sin, did the devil make them do something, are the thoughts God or the devil talking to them, or what will happen to their soul, or if it's a reincarnation-based religion, will I be punished in my next life? And you don't necessarily have to be a follower of any particular religion to have religious OCD. You might just strive to understand what it means for you if there is a God or isn't a God, and even wonder if God is merciful or vengeful. One of the reasons that this type of OCD is so difficult is that you are looking for answers to unanswerable questions. And the more you try to seek answers, the more your brain sends you these thoughts and anxious feelings. So an important part of treating religious OCD is to recognize when thoughts and compulsions are OCD, and not some godly or ungodly intervention. And that doesn't mean that you have to give up your beliefs. It's about learning which behaviors are a healthy part of your religious practices, such as prayer and doing good, and which behaviors are OCD compulsions, which are just fueling your anxiety and bringing more OCD thoughts. Another type of OCD that can be very distressing is relationship-based OCD. Being in a loving relationship can be a wonderful experience, but for people with OCD, the fear of that relationship ending can drive some very upsetting thoughts. What if I don't love her enough? Does he really love me? He's going to leave me because of what I did yesterday. Does she think I still love my ex? What makes this type of OCD so difficult is the compulsive behaviors used to neutralize the thoughts can put pressure on the relationship and achieve the very opposite of what they are intended to do. For example, it's nice when our partner says I love you. But if they're saying, you know I love you, don't you, dozens of times a day, or asking, do you love me, from morning to night, then it might test the patience of your partner. Some partners are very understanding, but for some, these and other compulsive behaviors can put tremendous strain on the relationship. The key part of beating this type of OCD is again learning to understand that having these thoughts doesn't mean your partner is falling out of love with you. And then experimenting with reducing the reassurance-seeking behaviors and discovering how more relaxed both you and your partner feel in the long term when the behaviors are resisted. Another disturbing type of OCD is intrusive images. The images could be violent, sexual, or just plain bizarre. Martin Luther was reported to be plagued by images of the devil's backside when he was praying. These images can lead to feelings of shame or anxiety, and all sorts of compulsive behaviors are used to try and neutralize them. Images of harm to your loved ones may result in you constantly checking they are okay, or even to bizarre, repetitive, ritualistic behaviors in the hope that they will somehow prevent the image becoming real. Inappropriate images are often completely contrary to your morals, so may bring guilt, and you may feel compelled to prove that you are a moral person. But whatever these images are, they are just images, and not a reflection on you, or a prediction of any event that will happen in the future. Another very distressing type of OCD is harm OCD, and this may overlap with the intrusive images that I mentioned earlier, or may just be intrusive thoughts that you will harm someone. And if the thoughts or images involve harming someone you love, it can be even more distressing, and may lead to you avoiding these people, which can be bad for your relationships. Or if it involves attacking strangers, you may be reluctant to go out. But it's important to accept that these are just thoughts or are just images. They are meaningless. It doesn't mean that you're going to become violent or that you are a bad person. My final OCD has to be the most upsetting of all, and because it's so distressing, I'm going to dedicate a bit more time to it. POCD is a subtype of harm OCD. The P is for paedophilia. People with POCD get thoughts or images of themselves harming their child or someone else's child. This is distressing enough, but for a parent who is getting thoughts that they are a paedophile and fears going near their child as a result, it must be heartbreaking. But I want to make something very clear here. Having POCD does not mean you are a paedophile or will become one. In fact, the opposite is true. The very reason you keep getting these thoughts is because they are so abhorrent to you and bring you extreme anxiety. But your anxiety will ask, how can I be sure it's OCD? Well, other than the fact that these thoughts make you extremely anxious, you will notice that all the behaviors you have are designed to protect children and not harm them. I'm not going to go into detail of the behaviors that genuine paedophiles have, but they are the exact opposite. The problem is the protective behaviors that people with POCD have are not only unnecessary, but actually cause the number of thoughts or images to increase. So with all these types of OCD, the message I want to get across is that thoughts are just thoughts. Images are just images. Most people get weird, upsetting, or distressing thoughts pop into their head sometimes. If you don't believe me, have a look at this survey I did 11 years ago. I will post a link in the description if you want to take a closer look. The difference between most people and people with OCD is that most people just ignore the thoughts. But for people with OCD, the thoughts bring such anxiety that they try to neutralize them with an action or behavior. This tells the brain that the thought has some validity, so it sends it again, and you get stuck in this loop of thought, anxiety, and behavior. So remember, thoughts and images do not define who you are. Neither do they define what is going to happen or what someone else is thinking or feeling. If you are experiencing any of the types of OCDs I've mentioned, or anything similar, please seek help from a therapist. Do not be embarrassed or feel ashamed. They will have seen similar or worse before. They understand how OCD works, so will not judge you whatever the thoughts or images are. They know that thoughts are just thoughts. Most therapists who treat OCD use something called ERP, which means exposure response prevention, and is very effective for reducing the severity of OCD. So I hope this video has helped. Please give me a like and see my OCD playlist for more videos on OCD. Take care now.